All right, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Building for Dummies podcast. My name is Kyle Demian and I'm joined here, as always, with Renji Matthew. And today we're going to be talking about the top 5 money moves that you need to make for 2025 if you want to start on your path to becoming financially free in the next 10 years or less. This is the Wealth Building for Dummies podcast. So these 5 tips aren't going to be probably what you're hearing from other content creators and other people that are just, telling you to do the basic stuff, but we're going to get more into the weeds with a few different ideas and different strategies for you. And then at the very end, we'll have a bonus 6th tip that you guys will have to stay around if you guys want to get access to Renji and I on a one-on-one basis and to learn more about what we are doing personally for these 5 different strategies here, right? So Renji, why don't you kick us off with the first money move that people should make in 2025?
Yeah, first thing I would say is as simple as having a high yield savings account, right? The role of a high yield savings account, for me, I use it as my emergency fund. So basically, you might have regular savings accounts, you have checking accounts, but if you have an emergency fund, role of that is to only use it if there's an emergency, right? So if it's going to sit there and not be used at all, why not have it in a high yield savings account? So you're at least making some kind of profit on that money that's sitting there idly, right? So having a high yield savings account, there are different types out there. There's one, you just want to check to see what the interest rates are. And we've talked about this on a previous podcast. There are high yield savings accounts out there that with banks that don't have a physical place you can go into, and like online high yield savings accounts, which that's what the kind I have. Benefit of that is they don't have overhead to pay for. They don't have a building to pay for, all these things. So your fees might be a lot lower, or you will have higher interest rate on growing on your money too. So that's one thing. Anything you want to add to that, Kyle?
Yeah, and I think to like shop around often. Like I've had a high yield savings account. I've had a few different ones over the years. Reason I've had a few different ones is you sign up and they have you start at their introductory rate, of 4 or 5%, and then like every quarter it seems like it kind of drops off. So just look at what's out there again and go get like one of the highest interest bearing accounts right now. And I was doing some quick math, and yeah, like if you can find an account that has a 5%, annual return, for every $10,000 that you have in that account, that's an extra $500 for the year. So the extra money you can reinvest, extra money you can do other things with, and so on, as we'll get into later into our podcast. So that's the first one. Look into a high yield savings account, and I'm laughing right now in my head because initially we started this off saying, hey, we're going to talk about things that other people aren't, and I'm sure a lot of people are talking about that, but still too many people don't have a high yield savings account, and we're just missing out on this extra money that's available to us because the large banks, a lot of the large banks are only paying 0.25% if you're lucky. So I mean, we're talking about 10x the returns on your money that you just have sitting idly in a regular bank account, a regular savings account. So look at a high yield savings account. Number two, number two is going through your investments and your savings and actually calculating and figuring out how much you're saving and investing on a monthly basis. So you could probably start by doing a budget, right? Or calculating what your income is monthly and figuring out how much per month are you saving, investing. How much are you putting towards your savings accounts? How much are you putting towards your high yield savings accounts? How much are you putting to your 401ks, IRAs, other investments, and so on. Now, you want to get the number, the percentage of your income that you're investing. Here's why. Many people have no idea how much they're investing in the first place on a monetary amount, let alone what percentage of their income that they're investing. The typical rule of thumb is that you should be saving and investing about 10 to 20% of your income. So if you're making $10,000 a month, for easy numbers, that would be between $1,000 to $2,000 monthly that you are saving and investing. And here's why this is so strong and this is so powerful. Because whether you're making 30 grand a year, 130 grand a year, or $3 million a year, right? The percentage of your income should still be going to savings and investments. Even if you are making 30, 50, 70 grand a year and maybe money and things are tight, I get it. I get it. I've been there. But we have to find a way to pay ourselves first. Because here's the thing, if you can't figure out a way to pay yourselves first now, you will never pay yourself first. You'll always pay Netflix and Chipotle and all these other companies first before you ever pay yourself first. So we need to create the habit now, and we need to make sure we are doing 10 to 20%. And if you do your math and you say, hey, I'm doing 10%, okay, perfect. Let's bump that up to 12%. Like, let's start saving and investing more. You're never going to be. I've helped a lot of people with retirement income strategies and talking about retirement, and I cannot tell you, I've never met one person that got to retirement or is in their later years and like, man, I saved up too much money. I don't know what to do with it, right? So you'll thank yourself later. You'll thank yourself later that you prioritize yourself and you did these things now. So that's number two. Renji, anything that you want to add before diving into our third one?
Yeah, I mean, it's like Kyle said, it's basically about knowing your numbers, right? You want to know your numbers so that you know what you can do with them and how you can succeed. And budgeting is a big way to do that. Otherwise, you're it's blind leading the blind. You don't know where you're going, what you're going to do, what you're going to end up with, right? Number three would be exploring alternative passive income opportunities. So everyone talks about passive income, and we had a podcast previously. We had nurses that came on and talked about passive income. But one thing she mentioned, which is so true, most options that are out there, they're not truly passive until you make it passive. Even real estate, right? Now we have passive income, but it wasn't passive when we started. We had to find the properties, we had to fix it up, we had to get tenants in there. All of those are active things you have to do, unless you go with a turnkey company that does a lot of those things. But most businesses, to make it passive, you have to build up to that. But there are truly passive opportunities out there, and this is where the alternative investing comes into play. You can either work with private equity firms, you could work with acquisition companies, you can work with real estate syndications. These are all things that are already set up in place, and you're just plugging in and playing. Especially once you know your numbers, you know how much you have to invest with these companies and different things. So those are all options out there, and you have to be careful with who you're investing with, right? You have to make sure you vet them thoroughly. You have to make sure there's some type of compliance that they have to follow, like the SEC, or you have to make sure they have some type of insurances in place so that your money's protected. Similar to the bank. When you go with the bank, all banks have the FDIC insurance protection. That way, if that bank goes under, you're getting your money back. Well, up to a certain amount, up to 250,000, right? If you have
True.
more than
Yep.
that, you're screwed if they go under. But those are things that you want in place so that if that company ever goes under, you're getting your money back, or at least most of your money back. So these are all things you want to look for. You want to see how long they've been around, how public are they, or is this, how are they promoting them? You have to look into all of those things, and but those are truly passive opportunities. Traditional private equity firms, they are all work differently, but most of them, you have to be a qualified investor or a certified investor. Some of them you have to be making at least 200,000 minimum a year on your income. Some of them you have to invest at least 100,000. Some have management fees, but there are also private equity firms that don't have all those options. They have minimums of 10,000. Any of these options, you have to have money to invest into. This is again why it's important to know your numbers, because if 10 to 20% of your income needs to be invested somewhere, then you know what that number is. Now, when you're looking at these options, you know exactly how much you have to invest, right? So there's all these options out there that you have to thoroughly vet and see which actually makes sense for you, and Which one can you actually invest into? Because does it make sense for you income wise? Does it make sense for you in your goals and all of these things? Anything you want to add to that, Kyle?
No, I think you did a very good job. So on to number 4 then. Number 4 is actually securing your legacy right now, right? If you're listening to this podcast, if you're watching us, if you're in our if you've worked with us before, we talk about building wealth and getting financially free. Unfortunately, we don't know if or when or if we'll ever be able to do it, right? So when we're working with people one-on-one, we talk a lot about laying the foundations for success and at least ensuring that, God forbid, if you pass away too soon or if you get sick too soon or anything while you're young, that you can still leave a financial legacy. You might not be able to build financial freedom, but your loved ones would be able to reap the rewards of not only proper planning, but also, proper setup of different things like life insurance, wills, and trusts. And here's the cool thing about life insurance. You can get life insurance now, and essentially that's like guaranteeing or ensuring you have a net worth that you're going to be able to pass on. For some people watching this, it may be your goal to leave a large legacy. We can do that through building wealth with asset acquisition and these passive income opportunities that we're talking about. But the one thing that you and I don't know is if or when something will ever happen. And if it happens too soon, it's unfortunate, but we can plan for that and we can make sure that you're still leaving your loved ones in a better position than when you were here, right? So that's the 4th one, just securing your legacy, life insurance, wills, and trusts. Renji, anything that you want to add on to that before going into number 5 for us?
It's similar to making a plan, right? Knowing your numbers. It's the same thing. You're planning for anything that could happen, could go wrong. Or if nothing goes wrong, at least you've still planned well enough to where you can leave a good legacy to your family, right? So number 5 would be tax strategies, right? So, and wills and trusts and life insurance all help with those too. But you want to make sure you're working with a good tax professional or CPA, that either a CPA or a tax attorney that knows how to help you go through the tax codes, right? Because we talked about this on a previous podcast. There's less than 7,000 in the original tax code. There's less than 7,000 pages, but with all the rules that have changed and lawsuits that have happened and all these things over the years, there's almost 80,000 pages, right? Was it like 76 or 77,000 pages or something? So for a normal person, I can't go sit there and go through all those tax codes, right? So you want to make sure you have a good tax attorney or a tax professional that knows what they're doing. I'll tell you, for me personally, I'm on my 8th CPA. And the reason is the first 4 I had, they were just bookkeepers. It's similar to a doctor when they go through med school. They're a general doctor, right? And then they have to go and specialize in whatever they want to specialize in to be making more money or to be specific to what they want to do. It's the same thing with CPAs. Most of them, when they go through CPA school or whatever it's called, it's mostly just bookkeeping. And then they have to go and learn how to strategize. You want a strategic partner that works for you, right? Something that we've heard from a lot of our mentors is like, does your CPA work for you or for the government? Right? You want to make sure they know how to use the tax codes for your benefit. And we have questions you can interview them with in our community and stuff. But you want to make sure they're business owners themselves and they're using these tax strategies for themselves, because if they are, then they know how to use them for you when you need it. And something I like about my CPA, if there's a strategy I hear about, right, I'll go ask him. It's like, hey, is this something I could do? And he never says no. He'll either say, yes, you could do it and tell me how you could do it. Or if he doesn't know, he'll actually go research it and come back and tell me, hey, this is how we can do it. Or, hey, with your business, it might not work, but if we do it this way, it can actually work out for our favor. So that's, your CPA should be working for you, not for the government, right? Because they should be trying to save you money so you're not paying all that money to the IRS, right? So in all of these things we talked about, in any business you're trying to get into or start or whatever you're trying to get into investing wise, it's a good thing to go ask your CPA. It's similar to going back and planning, right? It's all planning, setting up wills, trusts, knowing your budget. All of that is planning. Same way you would go to your CPA or tax attorney and be like, hey, I'm thinking about investing here, or I'm thinking about doing this. What does this look like tax wise? Am I going to be paying all that money to the IRS, or am I able to keep that money because there's a tax strategy that goes with it? Those are all good things to know. That way, once you invest and you're making that money, you know how much you actually get to keep. And if you have a good CPA or a tax attorney, they'll know how to help you to get money back, right? So there's so many options out there. And talking about the tax codes, like we said, there's over 77,000 pages, and only less than 50 pages are about how to pay taxes. The rest is about how not to pay taxes or how to defer taxes. That's all retirement plans are. Like 401ks and IRAs, those are all tax codes to how to defer taxes. So if you have a good CPA or a tax attorney, they'll know how to go through that to show you how to either not pay taxes or defer taxes the legal way. Not illegal way, but legal way, right? And this is why a lot of people hear about wealthy people not paying taxes. It's not that they don't pay taxes. They pay the right CPAs and tax attorneys that know what they're doing, that show them the tax strategy so that they don't have to pay taxes legally. Right. So anything you want to add to that? I know I just rambled on for a minute there.
That was good. Yeah, there was one thing I wanted to add on, and it was just the fact that the majority of people overpay on taxes without even realizing it. They're not taking deductions that they're eligible for. They're not accounting for expenses that they're eligible for in their business, or like, especially if you have extra money, laying around in savings accounts and high yield savings accounts. Like, there's strategies to buy assets that can actually reduce your taxable income in the current tax year. So once again, we're not tax professionals, we're not CPAs, we're not accountants. We're just two dummies running this podcast for you guys. No, just kidding. But as always, this isn't intended to be financial, legal, or tax advice, but as for education and information. Right. And that kind of leads us right into the sixth and the bonus money move for 2025 that you should take, that you should do. And that's joining our school community. We'll include the link below. But if you guys want to know the tax strategies that we're taking advantage of, Renji and I ourselves, and get access to the CPAs and accountants that we're using for ourselves, guess what? It's in our community. If you guys want to learn about how we're structuring life insurance, wills, and trusts for ourselves and protecting ourselves and our businesses through LLCs, guess what? It's in the school community. If you guys want to have access to these passive income opportunities that Renji was talking about, where they're truly passive, real estate syndications, private equity firms, acquisition companies, guess what? We give all that information away in our school community to our members. If you guys want the strategic budgeting and the savings, I guess actually technically we don't have that in our school community, but maybe we'll create like a little budget template and we'll drop that. That's in the school communities. And then if you guys want access to the high yield savings accounts that we're using, that we use, that we tell, we inform our community members about, that's in the school community as well. So for you guys in 2025, if you guys are watching this video and you guys made it to the end, number one, give us a like, show us some support. We would appreciate it. It doesn't cost you anything, but goes a long way for our channel and our page, so we appreciate that. And if you like the video, then please also subscribe. Once again, it doesn't cost anything to you guys, but does give us a lot of support on our end and to the YouTube algorithm and everything and so on. And then if you guys want to build wealth and want to get financially free in 10 years or less, and want to be surrounded by other individuals that are all entrepreneurial and want to make money, want to help people, want to make the world a better place, that's exactly what the school community does. I think we have like 44 people in there or so now, and we'll include the link below. Check it out, at least give it a look. And if Renji and I could ever do anything to help you guys out, we're always here to help as well. You guys will see our social media handles here on the video, so feel free to connect with us on socials, and we'll see you guys around the school community. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of the Wealth Building for Dummies podcast, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.